keep on reading my Facebook stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
So, talking about this child support post. Okay, so then one of the people who come in earlier came back and asked me, if you don't want us to put you on child support, how do we go about getting black men to financially contribute? But before I could respond to that, somebody else came through, and I liked their post, who was the other person who also had come in the beginning, came back and said, even if he doesn't pay it, because let's put him on child support even if he doesn't pay it, because what a lot of women don't know is that if the man doesn't pay, it becomes a lien. If he ever reaches a settlement or has to have funds legally dispersed to him, that lien will be paid. At my firm, we can't even disperse non-related personal injury settlement checks without satisfying child support liens if the man/parent is owning it and hasn't paid.
I'm glad that person's bringing this stuff up. But before you finish, I hate to cut you off. Pardon me. I have to speak directly to one thing I learned very early and then moved the way that I moved around girls and then women is they don't care.
She's encouraging this. This person who got all this information.
Yeah, what I'm speaking to is like women. Most of the time, I have to tell men like there's very few women who are completely ignorant to how things work. They like to play ignorant to it. I mean, not saying all women are smart, but there's very few who are ignorant to the domino effect. Some of the things that they may initiate will what will happen on the back end. Like, oh, I didn't know when I called the police about you possibly putting your hands on me, and then when they got here, I'd be like, I'm just playing that they might arrest you and then find that you had a warrant out for your arrest. Like, they knew that was possible. They're not ignorant. I don't play that game of ignorance. But you get to hold this L. You get to you get killed, or you get to pay this great price to you as a person because I was in my feelings. So even with this child support thing, the reason why I moved the way I did around women was because, like, no, I don't ever want to be in a position where a woman's like, well, I didn't know you would go be in jail or do jail weekend time. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that they would penalize you beyond just what they're giving me in my check because you're behind payments because I started it when our child was a certain age. Like, it's the playing ignorance that I don't play that game with women, especially black women. That's like, no. You knew that black bag was black when you bought it, so oftentimes but you're gonna turn a blind eye to them because that would mean that you may not be the person you think you are by doing this out of malice.
Yep, and you this person. It's still, ain't nobody gonna know her name Angelica with a J, but you interrupted her halfway in her post or whatnot, and you are correct. It continues on. Unpaid child support can also lead to people's licenses being revoked/suspended, and for whatever reason, when people, doctors and lawyers, licenses become involved, they start paying, which means they could have paid the entire time. Women should not be worried about the men being victims. The primary concern should always be the children. Get that money.
I know so my first girlfriend in college, her stepfather was doing weekend jail. Now, he was in her mind, most exemplary stepfather that he could ever be. And he was a good man, from what I could say. Mm-hmm. But one thing I found interesting is that he was going to weekend jail. He would be in there on Friday. He'd get out Sunday for being back behind on his child support for children outside that family. Now, mind you, he worked during the week. He would get off of work and had about 2 or 3 hours before he had to report to a jail. Mm. He was in jail from like 7 o'clock on Friday, may have gotten out like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock on a Sunday, maybe even later. And he went back to work on Monday. Mm. And he's not the only black man I know who's had to do that, not only for child support or things that I would consider petty crimes. And the crazy thing about it is, at the end of the day, the point I'm making is I had to learn you don't need to put yourself in that position because a good percentage, a good majority of black women around you don't give two fucks that that's going to happen to you.
When I saw her,
like, college was one of the most unsafe spaces for me because all it took was her word and campus police is going to ride on me, bro.
Yeah.
Campus police on me. Now, they may have slower feet on somebody else, another male in this space. But for my black ass, like, they was really going to we're going to lock you up and then have to prove your innocence. We're not going to approach you as if you're innocent and being accused.
Yeah. I like the comment when I read it, because I said she got all this information, and at the end of the day, like you said, she
don't care
to be cold-hearted.
Oh, no. She's not showing herself to be. This who she is.
Yeah.
So one thing that you have to expand.
And she looked like she might be married too. She got a hyphenated last name.
So the free game that I always try to give to teenage black men, black boys, is like, this is not a fantasy land. This is not La La Land. Like, I now know as a psychologist that we have more romantic attitudes than women. So while you was lost in them titties and that ass and how she made you feel like a whole man and everything, she was looking numbers. She was looking at where y'all could possibly stay. She was looking at how long you could serve a function in her life, and if you was going to be man enough to be able to withstand maybe what she put you through. What in that case? So that's the situation that I find a lot more men in, and it's like, no. You would like to think that he's in a good situation, but some of these women are on the precipice of divorce. Divorce is going to happen to them because they know, I'm putting this man through, and the only thing that's keeping it together is the image that we're good. Because he's now picking up on my low boiling contempt, and the reason why you hear some men being like, go about your own way, is because it's kind of like, once you start figuring out that this ain't a community, and one of the main, like, devil's advocate and not caring about what the outcomes that you really experience are the black women who may be real close to you. I understand why dudes distance themselves. I distance myself and only decide to deal with black women who I knew you love the community, and especially black men in it.
I didn't realize that was a thing. I mean, I found myself in that category, but I didn't know that everybody didn't belong there or didn't choose to be there.
Stockholm Syndrome even showed me that, and in different other ways of internalized bias showed me that these people sometimes will want to be elevated in the community so they can exert their perspectives of internalized bias to people in their community. You see that's in nursing,
and it's been rewarded. It's
and they will be rewarded. See, that's the part about
it is rewarded.
That's the part about being black American that some people don't understand. Like, no. There are some people who make their ways through the ranks and they do it in the earnest, honest way. But then there's other people who they're being rewarded because they're the Uncle Ruckus. Now, Uncle Ruckus to me was very funny because they showed that he was given the keys to the school. He's a custodian, but they treat him like crap. Like, every time they show him in the Boondocks, they make sure they show white people treat him like crap and recognizing that he ain't us, even though he was always bootlicking and, oh no, I love good clean whiteness. Yeah. Like, that's what it sounds like sometimes whenever you start talking about how you should function in the society that you know is against black men. These are questions that your great grandmama didn't have to ask because she knew America is putting their foot to black men. That's not a question. I see my daddy deal with it. My brothers deal with it. My cousins deal with it. My boyfriends in school dealt with it. Now my husband deals with it. My grandsons deal with it. My sons dealt with it. My grandsons deal with it. Like, I've seen generations of this because women live longer than they men. And the women, I respect women who say, well, listen, I couldn't handle being married to a black man, or, you know what I'm saying, like, so I went a different path, rather than speaking as if you can handle it, but as soon as you can find an escape hatch or shit don't work out the way you think it should, the first thing you do is run for the hills, and you use the system that you know it loves to put its foot on the neck of black men. And I don't mean that pun intended.
That's what I was calling out. Okay, so after that person jumped in and said that, I was able to get back to the other girl who kind of was like, what you do or whatnot, how do we get people to black men to financially contribute? And my answer was, first, we should make sure they are empowered financially. Reparations is required to create a balanced playing field. Discriminatory practices in places of employment, health, and education need to be addressed and resolved. Respect to black men humanity is essential for the development of our communities and families. We need to lay aside narratives that push stereotypes rooted in the consequences of their oppression and respect their grievances. Some of these women who wish not to be collaborative wish to have less resources, and so it would be. Then we need to recognize the things that require financial contributions are often predatory to us as black people. How about we deal with what created the need opposed to putting the pressure on men to meet it?
I hope some of these women, with their black women with their opinion, also are reading the writing on the wall. because we've seen some recent. I mean, from afar, I haven't been like I'm not a legal scholar. I don't follow laws outside of school laws like that.
Right.
So, but there's been some cases even amongst celebrities of men being able to acquire alimony and acquire money for children. And I'm kind of like, no, theory is coming into practice. We're seeing some egalitarianism happen in the family law courts that soon and very soon, like there's going to be some questions around why should we just be extracting money out of men?
Right.
Why should we?
So the girl who created the post responded back to the person who was asking me, how do we get black men to contribute financially? So after my response, she jumped in and said, based on her logic, you don't. You just let him live his life and you figure out how to take care of kids. Y'all both created by yourself, you know, because he's the victim. Laughing my ass off. And I just, I responded to that laughing as well. And then I said, then she asked me, after she mentioned her in that post, and then she asked me, do you genuinely not think that black women have these same odds stacked against them? They're at an intersectionality of racism and misogyny.
There goes that word.
Black women are dying during childbirth at astronomical numbers, and a lot of them are in the delivery rooms without support. All black people deserve reparations, not just black men.
So one thing that I found very interesting is, I'm gonna say two things. So self-determination is something that everybody wants. And the issue with self-determination is that there has to be some agreement with the two parties that self-determination can be achieved. And what you hear there is that black women are always here for their own self-determination. Like, I should be able to focus in on this, my life and my children. You know, I don't have to focus on that. We made these children, but I got to take care of this responsibility. That responsibility conversation is so normalized. But whenever self-determination is exercised by the man, it sounds like something. There's a glitch in the matrix. Something's gone wrong here. There's something gone foul. Something's afoot. Say, for example, situations where the woman didn't expect the man in a divorce to file for full custody of the children. Like, that was never something to be discussed, and that was kind of a surprise to her. It almost seems like, how could he dare do this? It was like, well, he didn't want to pay child support. He saw how terrible it was. He said, well, the best thing for me to do is take full custody of my children because I don't want to go through this. And some of the things I've heard, you know, from women who have been surprised by that is kind of like, this is not how it's supposed to go. And what you're hearing is, in our community, people have been developed in a way that there's not this huge onus on do what you do for just you. So differently than I think what I heard for the girls beside me in class, it was like, I need to be better because my community be better. Like, the boys and men in my community are bringing the community down. So I, as an individual, need to be better so my community will be better. And then right beside me be like, and girl, go get what you need to get just for you. So it was literally like two different narratives. And at the end of the day, like, as I got into high school, I started really like wondering, like, how am I gonna meet somebody who gonna want to be amicable and collaborative and work together and still respect each other's self-determination for our goals, if she's literally being told, if I have to think about somebody else, another adult male outside of myself and my children, then I'm oppressed. Or this is not ideal for me meeting my goals and me being, you know, at the top of my game. And I'm like, once I got outside our community, you know, I hate doing that cross-community kind of comparison, but I didn't meet professional women who spoke in those same kind of ways. Like, I met other professional women who, her husband also does professional things, you know, or, you know, there was an environment that I was like, so why am I hearing this specifically in my community, in my schools? Because I went to predominantly black schools. And I heard this from, like, not just the teachers, but anybody who was in the space, mentors who came in, everybody would kind of come in with these narratives of, well, the boys need to start being better because our neighborhoods are terrible, our schools are dilapidated, we got gangs all over the place, but we also need these girls don't need to be held back by y'all. Y'all just trying to get in their skirts, and if they can get away from y'all, trying to get under between their legs, they go off and do great things for themselves. For themselves. There was we got to start being honest about what we're saying in schools to the girls. It's not necessarily always about some type of. It was almost assumed that them having an opportunity to do this and make a whole lot of money would intrinsically, naturally, by some diffusion or osmosis, make the black community better. And that's not happening. It doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened. What you're really seeing is the community has become way more corporate. The community has become way more transactional. The community has become way more fake it till you make it. So I feel like I grew up in the last hurrah of, no, this man sells watermelons, so he got a truck that he sell fucking watermelons. He don't have a Ford 3500 or something crazy trying to stunt he selling watermelons makes a whole lot of money. He knows selling watermelons can accumulate money over time, so he might be quote unquote balling once he is an older man, but he's not living a life beyond his means to appear with he has and he doesn't. One of the conversations we're gonna have in the future is just talking about how I feel the dynamics of schooling has changed, because what people are willing to buy children in late adolescence, who we call teenagers, is completely different when we have, I can't just say single parent households. There's a lot of co-parenting going on. And as soon as co-parenting instituted, you basically have, this man may have some checks and balances or may not. Mm-hmm. It's really going to be up to this woman who the child oftentimes lives with on what she's allowing. And even if a man wants to exert his authority, his ability to instill it has now been limited.
That's definitely going to be a good deep conversation when we get to it. I look forward to.
That's going to be in our next conversation, I believe.
Okay. Yep. So you interjected right towards the middle of the end of her post where she said, sounds like you should be advocating for black men to have vasectomies until they're in committed families and financially able to provide for their children. I don't know what you expect custodial parents to do in the meantime.
Well, one thing that I find interesting anytime women start talking to you online, especially because you advocate for black men or try to bring some balanced perspective to the experiences of black men, is the very thing that I think grinds my gears and scorches my grits to an all-time high, is this natural authority and idea that, even in American society, oftentimes it's become the black woman's running things. And I think she's taken that to an all-time high, where these women online feel like that if you don't agree with my perspectives, it is okay for me to talk down to you, down my nose, and speak to you as if you are uneducated and uncouth, that I can now embarrass you online, which is its own social space, and there should be no retribution or accountability. If you started to, report me to someone else, I think that you were just being obtuse and really skin thin, slim skinned, and what I'm saying, you just being too easy on shit. You really were offended by that, because I feel like you were just being ignorant for the things you were saying. It's there are varying opinions about how things should go out here, and some of these varying opinions have merit. One of the things about being a true intelligent person, that's one thing I think this generation is it's driving me fucking crazy as an intellectual person. No, there are certain arguments who have merit, and when those arguments are presented, if you just dismiss them, you now sound like a lunatic. This is what creates. And
I think that's what's encouraged me to kind of speak more, because I had kind of been tussling. I told you, going back and forth. Do I want to say something? Do I not want to say something? And I feel like in the conversation that I hear black men having about women in their relationship with accountability, including women holding other women accountable, I felt like I can't keep on being avoiding the
But
conversation.
the danger you run into when you do that is that these women are unfettered, and I don't mean that like they should be chained down and barefoot and pregnant. What I mean by that is when it comes to the
Lens.
like they already are telling you with men they're willing to have sex with and bear their children that they will throw them to the wolves and fuck them. So what do you think they're gonna do to you even from an online chat? Like these are the same women who, because they may disagree with you online, they call your job. So you thought you just had an online back and forth banter, and they calling your place of employment saying that you have done some actual harm to them. They have language now of I felt violence in our conversation, and your job just on some like I don't even know them like that. They just come and do their job here, and this person is calling me saying they were able to press charges. They felt like this was a threatening, conversation. So again, many of the men know in a way that y'all don't like being honest whenever y'all trying to check each other. Like, don't even say nothing to her. Don't even engage her. When she asked the question, she was already on some fucked up shit.
Right.
When she asked the question from the beginning, she was already on some fuckery. And the worst thing about it is, like you said, this woman's married. If you think that you putting up with some shit online, imagine the faces that he sees her put on in their household, in their interactions and their engagements, especially when things don't go the way she thinks it's to go with a man like him.
Yeah, you make a valid point. I did say a little bit more though, so I'm gonna share the rest of some of what was said. So I said, are you familiar with WIC, what it stands for? Do you know when the disaggregating gender who was favored in receiving services for housing and having the government meet basic needs? The black man is replaced by institutions in many of our black families. Reparations would not be limited to one gender. And I don't need suggestions for my areas of advocacy. I'm not asking for anyone to get under a knife unnecessarily, because she had mentioned like you want people to get vasectomies, and that's not what I'm.
Well, I mean that's another point to the level of authority women believe that even they should be able to vote for over men because of white men on Capitol Hill have the ability to control abortions. It's a when I hear those arguments, because I know the roots of them, I know when one person is being obtuse and one person is really expressing their bias, misandry for black men. Yeah. So you're talking about castration and sterilization, which black men as much as black women have a history of in this country. Yeah. And your hate speech from people about black men is so commonplace that people don't even know like the roots of it. So you cannot equate the history of white lawmakers, particularly white male lawmakers, and they're trying to control the populace of America's, birthing dynamics, which mainly affect white women. You can't equate that to also, sterilizing and castrating black men. But that mistake is made so easily in a Facebook conversation.
Yeah. So she responds, I am well aware of what WIC is and what it stands for, acknowledging the fact that the name can be misleading. It is available to women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, but fathers who have children who fit the criteria are also able to apply. So be sure to tell the whole story. Which I responded, and what percentage of those who receive special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children are men? It's not significant. That's the whole story. So then somebody else, Angelica, came back and said, it's baffling. I've heard it all, different answers. Pride, I don't care. I'm going to always make something shake for my kids. We don't need him. He doesn't have a job anyway. Then legally he'll have more access to the kids. I'm not about to force a man to be a father. I think a lot of times the core issues are women are afraid to really upset the man or eliminate the constant conversation about their children needs, which half of the time is begging. They just want to stay connected to the man, or women don't want to be more involved with the man in on a legal visitation schedule. I think
there has to be a study or some type of legal review about this issue. But I hate I listen to the rest of the post as well, but she's starting to point out some real salient issues that we have. One that I think is missing that is, I think, a root again to a lot of things she's speaking to, which is in the modern dynamic, way differently than maybe in times before. Involving the court system may involve people and eyes even into the woman's household and how she lives her life in a way that may not necessarily always be in her favor. And that's what I think. Like, no. I remember my mother.
If I talk about the harassment,
my mother didn't want to, put my father on child support, but she also established a life for me and my siblings by being married and finding a stepfather for me that, it allowed for that kind of conversation to hit me in a way. It was like, we really don't need the money. Like, that would be, from her perspective, that would be out of malice. Yeah, more money is always good, but if I'm providing for you through my work and the man I've married, why should I need to endeavor to get money from another man? That was her choice. She also came from a more traditional kind of space. Today's woman is kind of on some like, I'm getting my money, I'm be on what I want to be on. Why can't I get it on both sides? And sometimes, like, as a person who works in very official spaces, I've learned people try to keep official people out for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you thinking it's some cultural pride, she thinking she can do bad all by herself. It's like, no. She knows whenever we start calling these people to start really having a legal conversation about this, they gonna come visit your house like they visit his house.
Yeah.
They're gonna ask for your financial numbers, like they ask for his financial numbers, or even gonna ask, how do you make your money? How are you supplying for your livelihood?
That's another conversation.
How are you supplying for your livelihood as much as these children?
Yeah.
Because I understand the father is providing some kind of resource for the children.
But we said equal contribution.
But how are you living? And I think that there's becoming less of a, I'm not saying forgiveness, but grace when it comes to, I'm living on the system, I'm taking advantage of all the fullness of the system, and I feel like the dad should just send me child support and help me get out of this situation. I feel like the system is starting to put the feet to the fire of both people in the couple, which is the man, you are the person working. You need to take these children so now the system doesn't have to engage in y'all's affairs, because the person who is the breadwinner or who may be the money earner because he's required to, he now has to figure out how we gonna watch these children. We don't have to figure out we don't even have to do the paperwork for you to do child support if he has the children.
Right. Yeah.
We just now have a visitation conversation. I think that's where courts are going, and I feel like even as she introduced the question, she's introducing this question because we are in the latent stages of people doing child support the way we've heard about it in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. So in other words, men just getting put on child support, raped over the coals. I feel like most Big Boy told us a long time ago, like, go pick them kids up.
Yeah.
Hey, bite the bullet, pick them kids up. There's a bunch of child care institutions, people who will help you. Sending money is the hardest thing you can do.
Right. Okay, so speaking of today's women, her post, she continues on and says, I'm 100% not one of these women. I struggled as a kid, even though my mom hesitated, then tried to get child support eventually and was successful sometimes. My dad fought like hell not to pay and had more legal resources. He spent more money fighting not to pay than actually paying. It was a shit show. He was over $50,000 behind when I graduated high school and then paid $1,700 a month for my little sister. My children will never experience that. I'd go above and beyond to garnish every wage before that happens, and T knows it.
Again, some of these people are living, some of these men are living as prisoners more so than they living as loved and well-kept men. Like, these women, once they start getting married and having children, some of their conversations were more threatening than loving. Now, what we want in our community are people who we shouldn't have to involve the law to provide for our children. We should have not only a culture of it, but also safeguards in our community when that culture fails.
Yes.
Now, the issue we have is we don't have a culture of really taking care of children, let's be honest. Like, that's what I want to talk about when I talk about how people are purchasing things for the youth in our next conversation. But we don't have a culture that really loves and protects our children intrinsically. And as a result, like, our projection of it has really, like, damaged the children, damaged us, and even more so, like, man, I think even the system's like, man, I'm not sure if we would have sent some of these children with their fathers, they would have been better off.
Right.
Like some of this is a failure. Sometimes this gender theories are doing some good work in the sense of maybe we need to have a real hearing about who should have these children.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't have such an assumption that these children want to go with mom. I've taught children who they were upset. The legal system. They were in the court, cognitive and aware that mom and dad are fighting for me. I know I need to go with daddy. Mm-hmm. Daddy is consistent. He's not the most smart person, but he's consistent. Mm-hmm. He does what he's supposed to do. I know what that's gonna look like. Mm-hmm. I don't know what mama gonna be on.
Right. Yeah.
I just know she want to fight for me because she don't know. She know. I know she don't want me to go with him.
Right.
That's her whole extra grind. Yep. She hasn't thought about what.
I know he loves me.
I know he loves me, and he's going to provide for me.
She don't like him right now.
I know she don't like him right now. That's what I'm clear on because that's the only thing she's communicating.
Yeah. Okay, so the person who originally made the post responds back to the girl who said she gonna take every dime. That's the other girl. That's the same girl who dropped all the stats about how bad it is out here where you get a lien and all this. I
can imagine being a husband seeing this stuff online.
Ooh, I'm telling you,
you just out here broadly threatening me. And my thing is, I make sure I screenshot it for when we do file for divorce and be in family court.
Yes, got to.
You premeditated. You premeditated.
You thought this all the way through.
You thought it all the way through, and you have a certain
vitriol.
Listen, the best thing you can do to me once you start having children and get married with people is have a conversation of, once we swallow our pride and emotions can get digested, this is how we want it to go so it can be easy on both of us.
Yeah.
You don't listen. People be hanging off of buildings and we're running a car into a wall over their family being disintegrating and their children.
Yeah.
So neither do I want a woman going into depression. I don't think she should want me to go into depression.
Amen.
We should be trying to provide for our children. And at certain points, it gets easier because they'll understand that we're not together anymore. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be something where we have to create a vitriol via the children where we're exerting power and authority. Oh, that's really part of what's in the background of this conversation. This is a power and authority grab. Mm-hmm. And it's really, to be a man who's been exposed to black feminism, black radical feminism, and knowing that while you've been trying to soften my view of how I approach women and not being a patriarch and not being a misogynist, you've actually been equipping them with a sword that if I wasn't hip to traditional men, traditional fraternities, and then always having an ear for men who spoke the truth about our experiences, I would be up shit's creek when it comes to blindly being with a woman who, at the end of the day, she's going to slip the rug from under me because she didn't like I sent the kids to public school. She didn't like that I didn't buy name brand or designer clothes. I bought a Walmart t-shirt. Like, whether it be something as petty or as serious as something, but the fact that she will be willing and able and efficient in raking me over the coals to the point where my life feels like a hollowed shell because men told me that honestly and looked me in my eyes and said, listen, don't do this to yourself. If you ever decide to do any of this, make sure it's a woman that loves you, that if she divorces you or you divorce her, y'all will be able to take care of this. She will understand that if she makes this any more difficult for you, it will suck at your soul. She is now damaging you for life, and you will never trust another person like her who looks like her because of what she put you through. Yeah. And that's the part that they're not talking about. See, these women are even so full-chested because there's been generations of women who done this to men, and it's almost like, I'll call it what it is. It's spirit and soul murdering that has been ordained by these women, and they proud of it. Like, no, this nigga had a baby with me and decided to leave, kill his soul, kill his spirit, and I hope he don't get up. I hope he don't fucking think that this shit over. I'll find a new fucking way to get some more money out of him. So that's why men are so really spooked and scared about not only child support. Nigga, I don't want to marry you because I'm scared of alimony. I'm scared that you're going to be able to listen. I not only have a theory about races that don't work, but one thing that I started noticing as I become an adult is races and genders that don't work. So as a man who's always worked in education, I've had an opportunity to be off on certain days where generally men are in. Like construction workers and other people, them holidays don't mean shit to them. They go to work.
Right.
But as a man, you may find me on a Monday or Tuesday on some teacher work days in a department store, and I know who's in there. So I know I don't feel like you work. Where's this money coming from? And understanding that some of these women are 40, 50 years old, able-bodied, still looking good, working around, and she's been married before, and this man is funding her life.
She's
From
been
an
married
old
before.
law,
She might not be married now.
yeah, from an old life, but she still working a good job. From an old life, and I'm not. In the present day dynamics, these are old laws don't make sense. If we're talking about egalitarianism and equal pay for equal work, all those things, some of these things will have to come off the books even for men. And when you start talking about women not having the ability to just like sick the law on men and just have clear advantages over men, like just some of the things I'm talking about that's coming down the family law pike, I'm kind of like, just them having a more clear hearing about who the children should really go with. Women in general, but especially black women, are gonna lose it because we have a cultural dynamic that believes black children can't live without their black mama. Now we understand since slavery that black children can live without their black ass daddy. Like, man, it drove me crazy in grade school, but even as I became a teacher, to see how quickly kids would go to blows over mama and grandma. But you talk about somebody's daddy or granddaddy, they might say fuck him too.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know who that nigga is no way, so I don't even know why you brought that nigga up.
Ooh.
But the mama who beating on them or the grandma who don't have no time for them, let them do whatever, you know what I'm saying? Now, we can't assume that all of them are good and clear and Christian people or whatever you want to think makes you a good person. What we run into is, no, you've been given allowance to do that, but you be smacked in the mouth if you ever spoke untrue of your, bad about your mom or your grandma, not just by them, but by the community. And you might be telling the truth.
Dang.
You might be telling the God, like, think about how many, think about how many situations that this child is ringing the alarm and the school is not necessarily it's going to take this child screaming out and acting out for them to be like, so I guess they are telling the truth, their mama's beating the mess out of them and this is having a traumatic effect on them. I thought they were just talking about their parent giving them a whooping, and no, they said their mama hit them with a brick. They said their mama hit them in the shoulder with the brick, and it was like, what you on? Like, I ain't never had no whipping like this. And then she hit me again, and I realized she's trying to hit me with this brick.
Yeah.
And I told the school that, and they was like, you just making stuff up, trying to get your mama in trouble. Go back to class. So you have to, come on now. Like, I don't think people really understand like how much some of the kids got to go through even in those homes before people will, because we assume these kids cannot live without their black mama. But we have as a community assumed that, to have a dad would be great. That's at least it'd be better off maybe, but like without a mama, think about some of the children who are being raised by single fathers or fathers in certain situations, and people always make it seem like they missing something. Like, oh, you ain't have a mama. Ooh, it's like, well. In the reverse situation, you don't always think of the child missing something. You think that she was able to fulfill. Dads matter. You assume that this black woman was able to fulfill everything in this child's life because she's so great, and I think that's a fallacy our community has to step away from, because it's really hurting the children.
I agree.
It's really hurting the children, and especially when they become old enough and cognitive enough, some of the kids start to question, I don't think this person is really doing the best they can for me to have the best outcomes. And some parents can't handle that, especially those who have traditionally been allowed and given a chance to say, I do the best I can.
I'm going to try to read a little bit more of this. You all right?
I'm good.
Okay. So the person who originally made the post responded to the one who said, I'm going to take everything, and said, a lady this morning said she just let him go on and live his life and trusted God to provide, LOL. So he provides the eggplant and you struggle waiting on God to help you feed and clothe them. Got it. And I responded, yep, deal with the consequences of making poor decisions. You chose them for dick, that's all you get. If you wanted a father who could contribute, you had that choice. So then she come in and said, I see they giving the doctor title to anyone these days, noted. And I asked her, you got one? And then Angelica said, this isn't the case for all women, but okay, Miss Spokesperson for sorry black men who don't want to take care of their kids. I hope you never need child support from one of the ones you're advocating for. And then I responded, yes, it is I, lover of black men. I've spoken no absolutes. Thank you for your well wishes. And so then Lakeisha said,
"See, I'll be here for you getting that shit. Because one thing I started taking myself out of is I won't be a whipping post for black women when they want to get their rocks off. That's black women feel like they're entitled to certain things, and whether it be a ear to listen to, or a whipping post, or help me out. You know what I'm saying, with my physical labor. Like part of it's just been exposed to feminism. Like, you don't always need my fucking help.
mm-hmm.
But part of it's also been, this is not always bi-directional. So I had to start being more welcoming to women outside my family who would be like, no, I'm doing this because I feel like this is what women are supposed to do when we're around men. And I'm going to actually do things that I feel like men are supposed to do when you're around me. Even though we're not being intimate. It's just we had a shindig, and I've gathered the trash and cleaned the space. Can you take this trash out? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm accustomed to.
Right. And we was talking earlier, and I realized, like, I don't oftentimes respond with a meanness, but I have been wondering whether or not I need to be more addressing these things. But I'm gonna keep on.
But you also got to remember, these are people who emulate white womanhood in a way that as soon as you start being as condescending, like you ask a kind of clarifying question, like you question my PhD, of my doctorate of philosophy, because people when they like to discount, especially black ones. They just giving them out, even though we went to a rigorous R1 top 25 program, they're gonna, piss on your degree because you're a black woman, even as a black woman. Also, the reason why not to respond, I think it's subconscious or unconsciously, this will turn into one or two things. It will elevate and escalate the nature of the condescension and name calling. Mm-hmm. And the second thing that could prompt once that escalates is, now I'm the victim because you don't understand that your words hurt my feelings. Now my words are just... And
the consequences of that, the swarming nature, because these fools come in packs.
My words are just clarifying, and I'm just talking in a controlled and contrite tone. I've gone to therapy, so these words I'm saying are really just for me to be... I'm a clear talker. Mm-hmm. People sometimes say I'm blunt, but... I'm not. I didn't say anything that should have offended you. Even when I said they're just giving out PhDs.
Oh, now you're being uncouth. Yeah.
When I said they're just giving out PhDs, I was just recognizing that outside of the STEM fields that my husband is in, that they're just I'm seeing perspectives that I didn't expect to see. See, this now leads into another conversation that we've had a little earlier about the nature of passive aggressive behaviors that have become commonplace in just some societal norms because of women. This is a more feminized society in many cultures.
Yeah.
So some of the behaviors you have to watch out for, even in the classroom, I'm having to be sparked way more by parents and outside staff, because in the classroom I normally wouldn't see the bullying behavior. The bullying behavior would be a picture and it's posted online, or some whispers and stuff like that. Back in the day, whenever we were talking about bullying,
it's right here.
This kid pushed this kid in the hallway.
On my way to my class.
This kid said, "Hey, you see that guy? He's a pussy."
Loud. We all heard.
Loud. It was. We know based on size and demeanor, all these things.
But the passivity of today.
But now with passive aggressiveness,
it's
you don't know who the mean nasty kid is, and you're surprised by it because they are able to. See, what they made it seem like with the physical bullies that they would be a wolf in sheep's clothing, and really it's the passive aggressive bully. See, the reason why so many people killing themselves is I didn't know that you could turn this off. They're not doing nothing. They're not doing something wrong. So what you're having to educate these children on when it comes to bullying in the modern sense is when you start even seeing these passive aggressive behaviors, these are damaging to you.
Yes.
But some of these kids don't know about these passive aggressive behaviors.
Let
me land because mama been doing it to them. Whenever, especially as they start reaching true adolescence and late adolescence, if dad is not around who has another set of skills to get his point across, that's not just physical. He has his own logic and own way of molding behavior, cueing behavior that he may want, and it may not just be rewards, it may not just be consequences. We have a whole dynamic outside of it that we have to institute when we have our own male spaces. But some of these children don't know that they are going through this because mama's doing this to them.
Yeah, like I said, daddy would normally be around to at least call it out. Stop doing that dumb ass shit. I hate when you do that shit. And like I said, daddy ain't even around.
You shouldn't do it to anybody. Let's
Right.
do it to your children.
Right.
When you do this to other people, this one got you popped in the mouth up the street. Because somebody caught you doing this.
Yep, and it wasn't okay. But okay, so you mentioned a white woman this, and I thought it was interesting how she responded to my question of do she got a degree? And she said, I didn't need one. I was fortunate enough to get some dick from a real doctor who makes actual money, and he take care of me and my kids. And then she did a little emoji. And I said, so you don't personally have the experience of knowing what it takes to be a doctor of any kind, nor have the experience of meeting and navigating child support services. You just got a little extra time on your hands advocating for destructive means of taking care of financial loads related to the family. Gotcha. And so she said, I'm like,
please let's sit here and breathe in that ether, because sometimes when I hear you go back and forth with these Facebook people, I be concerned because you gotta get your rocks off. This is social media land where even if it's just pontificating, don't let these listen, because they got words for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm noticing with this post. I'm still trying to get to the end.
They got words and they got time. They got words and time that they really want to keep going back and forth with you about something that, like you pointed out, bitch, you don't have none of this going on in your life. When I say none of it, I mean zero of it. You are married to a medical doctor. One thing I think is I'm trying to, like, even from what you said, I'm kind of like, does she even have an undergrad degree? Let's not assume.
She does have an undergrad degree, and I think she has a master's degree as well. I saw her recently traveling. She got a master's degree. She might have been in
the program, but I like to listen.
She was pre-med.
If you're going to question my credentials, I don't need to see that you went.
Oh, yeah.
Listen,
yeah.
No. LinkedIn lies. Everybody lies. I done see a nigga change a transcript. No.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
You know she attended.
Yeah.
You went at the graduation and then you ain't seen the paper in her hallway.
That's how she been doing some work.
She know how to be condescending.
Yeah.
She know how to be elitist. But let's not assume. One thing I've learned about being close to these people is you got to ask for validation. Because some of the reason why you networking these people that can't do nothing for you is they ain't got the credentials that they say they do.
Ooh.
It is married to the person who got the credentials, who is really the person you need to network with, but that person's way more reserved and coy. Like her husband. Like, as much as we trying to project, like, I wonder how he feel about her talking about this. He might be a man who's really not on this shit.
Yeah,
he not on Facebook like that. So she's out here being wild and free in a space she knows she can be. She even has time
right now.
She even has in a way where I'm sure she curates this page of Facebook in a way that it doesn't get back to him.
I'm wondering. But like I said, I'm pretty sure that it's probably, a little tension in the relationship as a result. So she responds, laughing my ass off right now because you clearly don't know me, and that's fine. I don't know you either. Just know you're wrong on all fronts, boo. And that's the normal dismissive behavior.
And not only is it dismissive, but what I want you to also know is this is the level of power and authority that they take into every conversation. So one thing I found offensive when we had classes together and you saw me in graduate school. I've been a part of debate teams. I've been a part of AP classes. Even as a history major, I've been a part of seminars since I was in. This is a regular part of my life, and I had never been a part of intellectual conversations with certain professors that had been so. I told you what it is. You now have to accept it in a way that. No, it'd be different if you could demonstrate it's different. Mm-hmm. You're not demonstrating a difference, and I got some validation on what I'm saying. I got resources I'm pointing to that says but the resources say that black boys in schools are going through this, why we're not talking about it, and you're saying, well, they've been focused on already. Well, prove that. Mm-hmm. Prove that they've gotten really focused on and things that really move, like a need to really move for them, because if not, you just are leaving them out.
Yep.
And those conversations never what I started learning from those conversations and you and one of our colleagues was used to be really hot, but by the time it don't take but once or two times of me getting really emotional because I'm passionate about it before I start figuring out like, okay, this is the game.
Right.
This is a philosophy that comes from another side that because I'm not wholeheartedly like I had to at least open my heart to accept the bullshit, and because I was clear that no, I know truth, I know empirical numbers. I need for you to get me on board with you. I need you to provide some of the same and not just narrative. Hey, I love you did those 5 interviews, but let's extrapolate this data. Let's go a little further.
Really?
Let's go look into the data to cross. Let's make this a more mixed methodological study.
Yes.
Because you can't do that, I feel like you handpicked these 5 people that you know.
And so that's a very valid point. So the next, so I'm trying to get through the post where she says she came back. I ain't saying nothing after that. She came back because I thought that was the end.
No, she had to research you. That's what she had to do.
So she came
back. She had to look you up and look at your page.
She came back and said some statistics for all those who feel parents are getting over on child support. That never was something that I said. And continue, the average child support payment in the U.S. is $430 per month or $5,150 per year. The average cost of childcare is $14,760 per year in the U.S. This is data that she brought from the census website. And I came back with data that I got from Georgia because I sit on a fucking state advisory board, governor appointed, bitch.
Again,
I'm a whole damn data specialist.
Again, let's be very clear. One thing that's bad about social media before I start going into on this person is that people talk before they look and research. So I think somewhere along this conversation, because of how poignant you were, she had to start realizing I'm not just talking with some nigga online.
Yeah, and my name says.
But still, in social media lane, anybody can be a doctor.
That's
Dr.
true.
Dre's a doctor. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Dr. Pepper's a doctor. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Oz, who we don't know. Dr. Phil, we don't know what these degrees are in.
Yeah.
And even with STEM people and so, people don't understand what this really means. And come on, let's talk about us, EDD versus PhD. I really have a certain
PsyD.
I respect medical doctors, but from a doctor of philosophy, if you didn't do a dissertation or some type of experimentation where you added to the body of knowledge, I don't know what you did.
Yeah.
So I even have a certain bias or tilt when it comes to the PhDs or doctors that she's speaking to. I find it very funny when you engage with these types. They start by, I use what they use, shame, blame, and explain, but they start by, or use a sign language, but it really starts with insults. It always starts with insults. And I love how they try to make it seem like they love black women and that they're fighting the ban for black women. And the first thing they do whenever a black woman is like, yeah, but let's always also consider black men. Like, man, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah,
bitch, I don't know what the fuck you think you is. You old
definitely
nappy
a common experience over here.
Oh, nappy headed hoe. I don't know what you
said.
You and your shit.
I thought I was amongst the finest of the fine.
And then they go check your page and be like, I understand that you have a great life and how things are going for you, but I don't understand why you're talking this way because you're. See,
you're supposed to be with us.
See, even their assumption when you start talking that way is that none of the dynamics that you have going on in your life have gone on. So when you start talking that way, it's like there's no way you went to a top 25 R1 public institution at the flagship.
Two times over.
There's no way you're a part of the state advisory board. There's no way that you're the data analyst for a data system that places children. There's no way you're doing this, talking this way. And it's like, I think the exact same thing about you. There's no way that you're the wife of a medical doctor who's taking good care of you, and your main concern is whether people should be paying child support or the pride around child support, because your friend probably asked you this in confidence and wanted you to really vet this, but now you taking it to your timeline. I'm projecting, but no. Still, I still think that there should be some decorum and behavior expectations that I have of the wife of a medical doctor who got all these degrees that she got.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, ma'am, you are definitely moving shamefully.
But trashy behavior is commonplace in this society, and it's doubled down when you're a part of people who they've been trying to project and stereotype trashy behavior on you, and now it's being embellished by your women.
Yeah. Aww.
So just no. I'm not going to just talk about us. I'm not going to talk about y'all. I'm just going to talk about us too, because I went through the trashy behavior of the men and boys. So that I mean, let's be honest. That gangster shit, that thug shit, not smiling in pictures, that shit was stupid. I'm glad people shook me out of that. So I got some kid pictures of me smiling. Because that no smiling shit, bro, like, you need to see yourself happy. So you can at least look back at yourself and say, I was happy at some point in time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that childhood, if I would not got shook out of that and been, you got to wear some other clothes and you going to smile in this family picture, I swear to God, you do a straight face. I promise you, I'll chop in your throat. And I'm saying my people talk to me that way, but people let me know we not on that, bro. That's y'all culture. Do that in your picture with y'all people. Like, and even by the time I got older with the middle fingers and all kind of stuff, it was like, all right, like, you gonna look back at these pictures and like, why am I on this?
Yeah.
Why am I being this way? What did I feel about myself that made me act this way? So, I'm not sure that's the same level of reflection that's going on in other places.
That's what I knew when she posted this post. I was like, it's only $430 a month. Anyway, the stats that I shared from the performance indicators of the fiscal year 2020 and 2021 said that $751 million was collected in 2021. And 697 came in 2022.
And again, I think she's being obtuse about how, similar to like taxation in the IRS, the child support system, most of the people who she engaging with, they gonna get a package. They gonna get a package, that alimony, child support, and some other stuff, because they got some real money from that medical doctor side. So she having a conversation that she should have really tagged her elite friends in and leave us middle class and below Negroes out of it.
Yeah, she could at least said, she could
to my elite friends.
She should have tagged the people.
Y'all gotta start talking to y'all class.
But again, I gave my answer, but she the one who came back with all this other stuff, extending the conversation.
You gotta understand that one thing about being elite in black peoplehood too is, I'm always ready to shit on y'all because I wouldn't piss on y'all if you was rolling around on fire.
Wow.
Like, no. That's the part of the reason why I didn't go to elite black institutions who are private and spend all that money is because I was like, I don't want to come out of that burgundy and white space and feel like I'm the best black man that they ever created, and I wouldn't piss on another black man who on the corner of Capitol Road if he was rolling around on fire because I'm better than him and he don't wear this suit. I sat in the same classroom as Martin Luther King. I sat in the same classroom with Samuel L. Jackson. So I'm them niggas. Yeah. I ain't just automatically believe it. I got to do something to even be mentioned in their same name. And I think you already know how I feel about I'm every woman as a theory.
I was about to say, because I came up out of there and they still be like, excuse me, man, why you acting like you ain't drank the Kool-Aid? Like, were you not trained with us?
Because...
And it's just like, I was trained with y'all, but I just don't adhere to those values the same way.
Somewhere along the lines, what happened was, to be successful, it's almost like what happened to the gangster image with black boys. So, what they started to say to y'all was that the only black men who were successful are the ones who, as a black boy, resented the gangster image and didn't do that at all. And that was not true. Like, it was a lot of successful black boys who listened to the same stuff. We just gleaned different things from it.
Right. But
we now have a lot of women who they are engaging with really trashy stuff, and I'm not saying that they can't glean anything from it, but we're not having the same association of bad behavior. And when I look at the numbers of success when it comes to black girls and black women, there's still a hierarchy. And I'm tired of people talking to me. Like, I've had people who don't have degrees that I have. I mean, they may have a high school diploma. I start there. But they may have the educational degrees that I have. But they talk to me with a certain authority and power about certain things that I feel like if you weren't a woman, you wouldn't talk about it. You wouldn't talk to me this way. I naturally get a certain deference from other people because they understand the weight of a degree or my experience in a way that somebody might still come to me talking as if like, I know you know this, but let me tell you this. You misunderstand this, and and it's a unconscious assumption. It's an unconscious assumption of authority, and there's no way this nigga know this because I would know it like him naturally.
Yep. So okay, she posted her link from the census. When I posted my data, it came off my Instagram page because I actually was just talking about this particular data in December. So I just screenshotted and posted up on here so you can see this. Like I was right. Like this came from straight the state or whatnot. So, and I responded to her, sounds like the issue is the price of childcare, not child support payments. And so she said, so what do you suggest custodial parents do to help with costs if other parent refuses to help voluntarily? In most states, if the custodial parent uses or attempts to use any government services, the state will make the non-custodial parent repay them. I'm like,
That's where the problem.
I don't know.
And most women don't know that's where the problem. Some of the problem came in. So some of the problem came in with the. It's really what conservatives be on, which is like small government and shrinking the size of government. So what she's not understanding, and she's probably a fiscally conservative or even probably a logical conservative person based on how she's talking, which is before child support became such a punitive, penalized kind of system, it was just they tried to do their best job to get money from the father for these children. And there was no kind of connection between that and what the state may have to provide as far as daycare services, WIC services, kindergarten, pre-K services, etc. There was no collective conversation of that. When you start talking about shrinking the government and cutting back funding, you start really talking honest about no, we need to start collecting more money so we can just turn that money over into provide for the children versus providing services for children without any look over to whether dad or whomever is providing for them. So, and this, this goes to like political science philosophy. There's certain people who believe in a fiscal idea of we don't look at necessarily how people are contributing to society as far as having more children or having children or even committing crime for that matter. We just need to provide support services for the community because it will combat all those things. And you have some people who will say no, the government needs to be small, communities need to make that decision for themselves, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so when she said if the custodial parents use or attempt to use any government services, I thought about so you married, but you said I want to be on food stamps or whatnot. You got the doctor to make that good money, and then once you went and got on food stamps, they made him pay or whatnot if y'all were separated. But okay, so her question to what you expect people to do, I said live within your means, surround yourself with community, counsel. There are other options outside of robbery of one parent who have good intent to take care of children. I don't have all the answers. I was here to speak to the value of not putting a black man on child support. So
you also got to understand that, I know I keep interjecting, you're gonna be hard pressed to ever sell an ideology that black women especially to hold L. And what I mean by hold L, I mean
I have said it a number of times. Like it's how the cookie crumbles.
Some of this strife is a part of the life that you've chosen as a means of the choices that you made. They're saying no. There's never a situation. I always can choose a different path. This is why I want to often say women in general, but especially black women in my community, have 9 lives. Like they can be one way during their childhood and turn around and be a different way during their teenagerhood or young womanhood and claim that I've always been this tender-hearted person. It's like, no, I know you terrorized. I went to elementary school with you. You was a bully and terrorized people through elementary school and middle school. You got people who got real trauma because you was in class with them and how bad you picked on people. But now you just such kind-hearted and all that kind of stuff because your cousins committed suicide from all the bullying that they went through in school, and now you done turned a new leaf. No, great, you're a new person now, but you can't just claim you weren't that before.
Right.
And I see that all too often, and I think that we have some of this in this case too, where like you got people who, yes, I've made life hasn't been a bed of roses. But they gonna make sure that it turns into roses on your ass. Like I don't matter I don't care what it takes. I can feel like, yes, I have put myself in a pickle. You gonna get me out this jar. I will kick your ass back into it, and you'll drown before I think that I should be able to just have to live a life based on the things that happened to me or the things that I've decided.
We're getting closer to the end. So she goes, also would like to add that most high-earning people I know have chosen to put themselves on child support. It prevents overuse and imbalance of provisions. it's the lower earners I see making the biggest fuss.
Oh, here we go.
Yep. She continues on to say all costs associated with raising and caring for a child should be split evenly if the parents are choosing to co-parent.
Shoot, from the higher end, they choose their route because they use the cheapest route. So the high end, if they get on child support, they actually are asking for more because as she's pointing out, that child support is for a high earner. That $400 a month is just another bill. Mm-hmm. But for somebody who's working in fast food, retail, a job that makes $15 an hour, $20 an hour, $25 an hour or less, that $400 a month is going to put me either out on the streets or hungry, or I'll be able to go to work every day if I can keep it in my pocket.
Right.
And so one thing that if you ever I don't like talking to these Negroes or talking about these Negroes too much because I have never seen their world entirely, at least not for too long, where I could even speak this crazy out my mouth about black people, because I got people who've done time because of child support. Mm-hmm. I had uncles and cousins who, we having family gatherings, it's like, where's such and such? Is like, that damn child support. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you take a whole different approach, and you see why families would try to bargain with the girl or woman to get him off of it, because it's like, he can't work if he's in prison, in jail. Like, this is not this. What do you want him to do?
And you kind of get into one of the point that I made. She said, okay, all costs associated with raising and caring for a child should be split evenly if the parents are choosing to co-parent. That means splitting the living arrangement, cost of daycare, health insurance, clothing, extracurricular, food, etc. 50-50. Even take off work to care for sick children. Anything less creates grounds for compensation or court interference. And initially I was like, but you're not about to be compensated for taking care of no damn kids. But anyway, what I said was, the economy of our community needs a more critical eye. Harsh rules will have an impact on more than intended. Again, we overlook the cost at the issue and focus on payments. It's like, bruh, you over here trying to rake up all this money because they charge too much for this shit. That shit shouldn't cost that much. But we should be able to afford that without having to lock a nigga up.
The reason why I say I don't like talking about these niggas too much is because, like, you gotta have generations and proximity away from the Negroes that y'all don't like looking at to think this way and to talk this way. So not only has she now created a life by marrying her medical doctor husband, good for her, but you also have a situation where I'm sure even before she got to this pathway, she might be on the wing of the family, don't really fuck with everybody else.
Yes, I've seen her when they had her baby. I saw her over there clearly screaming it out.
We got these elite Negroes of the Atlanta Metro.
Yeah, I don't have that privilege. I wish I would be talking about which family member I don't fuck with, even if it's the family member that we all don't fuck with.
I don't have no family now.
Too disrespectful, right?
My family's so big. My family's so big that if I stop fucking with po niggas, I'm not fucking with the other niggas.
Nigga,
like some of us are up, some of us are doing all right, but if I just start talking like that about,
like, where's the love?
I've never been that far away from people who really go through the shit that people talking about.
Never.
So she's asking a blanket question, but she can't even think in her mind about a man who's going through this shit that she really care about. Let me say that last part again. She can't think about a man who's going through this shit that she really care about.
Talking about it like
that's why people asking the question if her husband see this stuff online, because anybody who can read good and can read really, really good are sending him like, nigga, run for the fucking hills. I could have tagged him. I could go talk to him like, girl, you hey, my nigga, run for the fucking hills, because if this shit go left, she's coming for everything that she can from your black ass. If you black. Let me be clear. If you black.
Speaking of, I'm wrapping up. So then the first white person comes.
Oh my goodness.
And says, this is me. She got her me eating popcorn. And so then the girl who made the post original says, bye, Sarah. Are white women opposed to child support? And so,
oh no, you're not going to start including. Never go ahead.
So then Sarah says it's usually the stepmoms or significant other of the baby daddy. I have enjoyed the comments on here though. It's like, yeah, but you entertaining to her. Sarah she not my friend. This your fucking friend. Oh, nah. She's like, that's usually, so then she responds after Sarah said, what she said, that's usually what I've seen, relatives of the baby. Like, you're not even going to acknowledge the fact that you a fucking show to her. But anyway, that's usually what I've seen, relatives of the baby daddy or some baby mama who thinks not putting him on is when gonna win him back. As you see above, there are also those who have other interesting reasons. And another person commented who looked stupid, who said this thread has been so entertaining, and somebody else said thrill entertaining. Delusion is hella funny when it ain't got nothing to do with you.
I think people have been short-sighted. I think, well, they're not short-sighted. I think what women are really fighting when they have this conversation, black women especially, is I want to be able to call the police on you and threaten to say that you hit me and lock you up for the night, and I want to go bail you out, and you understand I still love you. And that level of authority and power is dirty and nasty, and I don't think that, like, if it was vice versa, we would call this abuse. We would call this emotional abuse, psychological abuse, where her husband, if he reads this, knows that he's laying in the bed with somebody who's already planned out how she's gonna be completely selfish, even if he still loves her and is willing to pay whatever it takes for her to, like, she's still gonna go through the legal rigmarole to make sure that she gets every last dime out of him. But she said in this timeline, in a way that she's gonna be blind to if it bottoms him out, causes him to drink or go to drug use, or really throws him off his path altogether. Like, what some people don't talk about with some of this stuff is that, like, some people have to now, like, be more, like, I was trying to get alimony, but now I end up damn near married to him again because to keep getting fucking alimony, he had to be good. So we going back to court to get it leveled. So I still get my money.
Support him.
I still get my money, but if he's not,
his wife, who else gonna do it?
If he's not getting, if he's not able to function to keep going back to work, this money don't come in. So it's still like being married to this person still.
Yeah.
So let's not keep assuming that, you know, when men are getting this money just sucked out of their check, that they're just blindly going to work. Some men just be like, I can't maintain.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Like, I can't maintain.
I said at the beginning.
It's a fool's mission to keep working, and I'm not bringing none of this home.
Yeah. To wrap it up, like the original post was, why do black women take pride in not having their baby daddies on child support? Does enforcing it make co-parenting difficult?
Yes.
Right.
No niggas gonna be cool. Women want to go say
show the stuff when we put it up.
Women want to go. Basically, what Cat Williams said is what they trying to do. Women want to go say, fuck every nigga in the club. You gonna be on child support and try to figure out why niggas be like, I'm good on this then. I'm really good on this because we listened. Most men of the modern have listened, and we speak very candidly about, I'm not going to be a part of that if that's a part of what you think is supposed to happen. If you think what's supposed to happen is if we break up after having a nice marriage and beautiful children, that you're entitled to take out whatever frustrations and gather whatever finances you can from me, blind to how it affects my life, then I know I need to keep myself as far away from you as possible, because you will let me be homeless on the street as long as you getting your payments in your paycheck out of mine.
Yeah.
And you won't ever think that you even need to stop by my corner to give me $20 to eat.
Oh.
That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
Like, no, you could be down and out from the money I'm taking from you, and I don't give a fuck, because I am providing for me and my children, not the ones that you put inside me, not the ones that we sired together. My children. And long as I'm high on the hog and fat on the cow, I am so fine with how my life played out. And believe it or not, like, they're gonna still keep going out into the public and say men ain't shit.
I'm telling you.
So part of the
co-parenting is it gonna make it difficult? Why you jumping in there?
Part of what I'm speaking to is that cycle is it's a cycle that is beyond just how you raising your sons. These men ain't shit because you siphon stuff out of them. And you don't really care how it affects them. So part of what I respected is like, no, some women are making this choice because they know how it affects black men. So, no, if I start putting this black man on child support, there's a black woman he might live with and some children he might live with who don't eat because I took that $400. And I need to be an adult. It's $434, which is the number she quoted.
Yeah.
Is it really worth somebody being homeless for it? If all I'm getting is $388 of that because they took the top end of this, is it fucking worth it? Yeah. My mom explained to me as a child when I was in middle school, it is not worth our time and energy to even put them on these papers. We're not going to listen, We're not going to get enough money. It might be enough money.
Just roadblocking him.
It might be enough money for me to give you an allowance. And my mom told me that. I was like, I know money right now. Like getting that $300 a month might have set me up a little bit better yes, money would have been money. But I'm glad my mom made a decision like, no, I'm cool with my sister-in-law. I'm cool with my stepmother. We have a whole different dynamic relationship. And I feel like I'm fine in a way that if we siphon the money out, it's like, bro, how much money were you getting a month? I'd be like, I was getting like $288. What? They took $434 out of my check a month, and you only got $288. Yeah, the government said they took one something. So we really just paid the middleman to fuck us both over.
Yeah.
I got animosity because you only sent me under $300 a month all my life, and you got animosity because
I'm taking $500.
Nigga, you live in a small apartment as a grown ass man taking $500 a month from you. This is what our community really gone through, and I think before we got to this place, people took time to understand people's lot in life. We understood how children were getting fucked by the system. We understood how black women were getting fucked by the system. We understood how black men were getting fucked by the system. And the main thing black people were trying to do was try to make it cool or bearable at the very least for each other. What we got lost in is that when people started saying that, no, people ain't trying to do that no more, we made images and we said that each other was really each other's enemy. And the children don't like the mama, the children don't like the daddy. And as you can see, mama don't like daddy either. So what community are you going to have whenever this kind of infighting? Like, no, in our community, whenever one person breaks up with another person, whether it's divorce or just break up, you going to go with somebody else, girl, and he going to go with somebody else too. So what the fuck you really going back and forth about child support for? You really just it really is a pain kind of move. Yeah. It really is a move that you make whenever you really trying to get back at somebody. Yeah, like, no, this person should be supporting their child. But I'm sorry, I'm raising the idea of what should happen almost never happens. So if you had this child with this man based on what he should be doing and not what he was actually doing, this is where the mistake lies. Yeah. This is where the mistake lies. But from here on out, like, unless you plan on dumping this child off in his family, if you plan on this child living with you, you have accepted the responsibility of what should happen for this child.
And I gave reasons. I said what you could do as an alternative. You know, there are options outside of child support in order to support child rearing. But I just want to go back to that last point where somebody else had dropped in, another one of our sisters, if you will, or whatnot, commenting. This was a sister sound. The first person was white. This was a sister actually who said, you know, this is so entertaining, and she's a person who I question her. I know that her love for black men. I'll say it that way. Whatnot, and you know, she was like, you know, thoroughly entertained, and then she said delusion is hella funny when it ain't got nothing to do with you. And then the girl who originally made the post commented and said, it ain't got nothing to do with me either, LOL. I'm still in shock, low-key. I had to put my phone down for my mouth got slit.
See, the reason why, that's why I said it's not even that she just, I'm not sure if the mouth got slick about you or the person she really asking the question about. And I don't think black women are even honest enough about how they really feel about their dynamics around other black women. My community, more so than any other community, when I engage with black women, the black women come and say, I don't get along with other women. I mainly hang out with the dudes. But all of a sudden, the men are the misogynists. The men are the people who don't like women. It's like, no. I done hung around so many women who, when they told me about how they make their friend group, what they was really saying in that passive aggressive way is they don't like women. They don't like black women. Black women have a culture amongst them that makes it hard to be friends with. But we don't want to be honest about that. That's the one thing that I used to read through that shit. It's like, no, most of my friends are guy. I have mostly black guy friends. It's like, you don't get along with women because black women have shitty friendships. Y'all talk about each other. You talk down about each other. You don't tell each other the truth. How does this look? Girl, you look good. Just so you can laugh all fucking night? Like, no, niggas joned him when he came downstairs.
Honest.
So we can let him know, bro, if you decide to wear this, we gonna laugh all night, bro.
Yeah.
Because we actually care about our nigga. We don't claim to care about our homie, and all of a sudden, they the fodder for our jokes. Right. That's not how we commune with our homies. I mean, amongst us, yes, but to make them the jokes that we gonna share with the public, the social, no. That's some passive aggressive stuff you'll see amongst a women group.
Right. Even with her response to the other girls talking about delusion too, I was like, you assuming that she was saying I was the delusional one.
Yep.
Because you was like, yep, it ain't got nothing to do with me either.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, and that's also why I don't be nasty sometimes, because like I know you're not the same intellectual as I know about the checks and balances. I do, try to figure out that part. But a part of me also feel like am I clear of my logic?
He's not my absolute favorite comedian, but I love when Chris Rock said that like anything you hate gonna happen in your family. So I hope and pray that her husband is the most faithful man ever. Because she's going to be on a different end of this. She's going to be on a different end of this. Let me land. Mm-hmm. She's going to be on a different end of this whenever, if and when a situation occurs where money's being siphoned out of their house and it don't really affect y'all. It's just a nuisance. It just gets on your nerves. It's like, nah, you think no matter what, a black woman should be able to put men on child support because he sired a child. Mm-hmm. And that money that he's making, they're going to be able to afford it. Probably could be able to send more, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing, similar to somebody said it in these posts, it's something about whenever that person moves on and child support is there. Child support oftentimes shows up when the man is moved forward or when the woman's moved forward. When people move forward, all of a sudden they need a little more money. Yeah. It's not always happening when we're trying to work things out. Mm-hmm. That's why they mentioned with the hopes of working things out, because that's been a constant conversation. Child support don't happen the day y'all break up. Child support happened whenever you got married and 3 months later. Mm-hmm. Not married to the person you had that initial child with, that new marriage.
Right. And I think you do definitely got a valid point too about the lack of camaraderie amongst the black women that I want to speak to, because I saw another notification that the white girl came back and I want to butt in real quick and had some things to say about WIC and not as relates to men not necessarily facing a nutritional risk because they didn't actually birth the baby or whatnot. So why do they need, anyway, all that to say, now you got this white woman who feel comfortable to talk to me, doctor who I am, whatnot, and question my logic because you was questioning logic. I think that's one of the things I learned too about leadership and leaders and community growing up or whatnot. It was like, be careful what you do because other people might do that too, and that might not be what you want or whatnot. So I do think that there's so much more room for community development and camaraderie between black women.
Part of the reason why I like being in political science is because it made me really start thinking about, well, how is this going to exist when we all have to follow it? And there's like what you're speaking to is like you're allowing her to come into our conversations and even just be entertained by us, and you're not bothered by it. It says something about you. Mm-hmm. But read the last part again, if you don't mind.
The last end of her talking about why let me see. She said, I just had to butt in for a moment. You do realize women who qualify receive WIC while pregnant and postpartum because they are at nutritional risk. Right?
I know that's
men aren't carrying babies.
So one thing that I always found interesting when I was engaging with white feminists, black feminism, and radical feminism in both forms was what people point out a lot, which is there's not a safeguard or experience that if we had to categorize it, that would be in the favor of the black woman or women in general that they are willing to give up because it has an unfair effect on men. But we do need to affect the things that men have a leg up on and have an unfair impact on women, if that makes sense. So whenever it came to the common example is always the sign up for the draft. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that it's a possibility that you could be drafted. Like there's a lot of, women who are just like, absolutely no, we're not men. I don't understand. But I want to be able to take the jobs, have the same kind of equal opportunity pay and everything when it comes to jobs. So I think this is another situation. Like, no, what if the structure now changes where we have a more clear family court situation where we evaluate both homes and see, like, no, we about to go, we're divorcing. We're about to go into the family court for them to figure out who goes with the kids, and the kids are with whomever unless they have to intervene. But we don't go into here knowing the kids is going to stay where they are. Mm-hmm. Even we communicate to the children, no, this is a case to figure out where you're going. It's not a case to keep you where you're going or for the parents to argue who's going to get custody. No, we're about to evaluate as the system which house is better for you. Okay? and we have to do that through a particular algorithm or combination of things. Similar to when we're placing people in foster care, and we want to see, do y'all both got a refrigerator? Do y'all both have finances that do you have the finances that if the other person does not provide
social support,
do what they should be doing? Because government, especially in the American government, we have a bit of bootstrapperism that's always going to be there, that rugged individualism. In the case that the other person doesn't provide, are you able to provide for this child in a way that is minimally sufficient? And that's sometimes I think that's going to be the question that pushes the envelope over. Are you able to provide for these children in a way that's minimally sufficient, given that somebody doesn't do what you think they should be doing? We keep going to this conversation of what dad should be doing or what mom should be doing, and that's not no way to create policy. We need to create policy on, like, if that doesn't happen, do we have safeguards and safety nets in that case? And what people are trying to point out, and she's already not willing to hear, is that the child support system is ineffective and inefficient.
right?
It takes too little money. It's not providing enough money because only $434 that may be going to those families who are receiving it, and it doesn't offset the increasing cost of childcare. And that's just us now getting way more, succinct about it. But one thing I cannot ignore throughout this entire thing is how deaf and tone deaf this young woman is, whose husband has a medical doctorate degree. And I wonder how tone deaf he is and what's making them so tone deaf to the black community and what's really affecting us. And I think a major part of it is whoever came to her in confidence, trying to figure out, should she put her probably elite man on child support because she may or may not need his money.
I hope she saw my post.
I hope she saw her post. No, I hope she saw her post, because black women got to start being a little more honest about who may be hurting and their feelings and or causing them to lose trust in the community. And sometimes it's not just black men.
That's very true. That's a very valid point. I'm glad you kind of bring that up, because I've definitely been a victim of receiving or following bad advice, or doing things that were more likely to cause me harm than not. Yeah. But thank you for letting me take the time to share the post I was posting about child support.
Well, this is a high scholar right here. I'm always amazed, but I'm never surprised.
Yeah, Dr. FURG. Thank you.